One-step algebraic equations with addition and subtraction. This is a digital lesson, and it's a beginning lessons for students just learning how to solve these equations. So it starts out explaining that algebraic equations are equations with an unknown value that they must determine. That unknown value is a variable, and so we usually use a letter or some type of symbol in place of the number that we don't know. So to solve for the variable, you need to rearrange the terms of the equation so that the variable's alone on one side of the equal sign. And we explain to students that it's like a balance scale. Whatever operation we perform on one side of the equal sign, we must do exactly the same thing to the other side. And it explains about isolating the variable. Now, once you go through this with the students, then they're asked to move these terms into the correct place in the sentence frames. Just a review of what you've just explained to the students. So all you have to do is click and hold on the edge, and then they can move these into place. And then it shows an example of how to do this. So we wanted to find the opposite operation. So this is addition. In order to isolate the variable, we use the opposite operation. So the opposite of adding 5 is to subtract 5, and we want to do that on both sides of the equal sign. I have my students put a line through the equal sign so it's very clear what the two sides are. And the two 5s cancel each other out because they add up to 0, so we get x equals 3. And then students want to always check their answer. So once they have an answer, they want to put that answer in place of the variable in the original equation and see if it works. And you want to explain to the students that with these simple equations, yes, they can do them in their head because they're simple equations, but we want to have these steps that we follow when the problems get more difficult. Now, the next slide has students dragging and dropping these different operations. So we're looking for opposite operations. So the opposite operation here would be to subtract 8. So we're going to move subtract 8 to that equation. Here we're going to subtract 4. It's the opposite operation. Subtract 9. Add 8 would be the opposite. Add 4. And add 9. So it just makes it clear to the students what the opposite operation is. Now they're going to be solving some equations. So they have one done for them. This one's partially done. And these 7s are going to cancel out, and that'll give us an answer of 22. So they just type in the 22. Here they're going to type in the opposite operation on both sides. The 4s cancel out. We end up with r equals 16. And so on. And they have several problems that they have to solve. And because of the text boxes, that forces them to type in that opposite operation, so they're not just typing in the answer. Now, when they get down to slide 13, now they're going to be shown how to check their answer. So here, they're going to subtract 3 from both sides, opposite operation, solve for x, and then they put their answer in place of x in the original equation to see if it works. Then the final slide, they're just going to use the line tool to match an equation to its solution. So they come up here to line, select line, they'll get a little plus sign. So they're just going to click wherever they want that line to start. And if they click and hold on these little blue circles, they can move it wherever they like. Now, students can play around with this. They can change the color. They can change the thickness of the line and just make it their own. So that is the end of that lesson. It's just a very beginning lesson on one-step equations with addition and subtraction.